Jean-Roch Coignet's memoirs offer a vivid account of his life as a soldier under Napoleon Bonaparte. The Napoleonic Wars are over, and he is trying to return to civilian life. I was always tormented by the fear of denunciations. Whenever I saw a police officer, I thought it was for me, and often I was not wrong. "What do you want, sir?" "Go to the town hall. I will be there in an hour." "Very well." My wife was worried. "But you only went to Mr. Moore's." "My dear, even if you put me in a box, they would make me talk through the keyhole." I went to the town hall before Mr. Leblanc. "What do you want, Mr. Mayor?" "My good man, you have been denounced." "That is not possible. I only went to Mr. Moore's. I do not leave my little shop except to make purchases. I do not go out. I have only been to the cafe once since I got married. Please detain the vile informer, but I believe I am right. Sometimes prisoners pass by asking for help with a list of names of all the officers. I give them 3 francs. To those poorly shod, I give my boots and shoes, but I have nothing left to give. I bet I am the dupe of my good heart, that they are spies instead of prisoners. You should know that, Mr. Mayor. It is the Paris police sent to ruin me, but I will not let anyone enter my house. I will receive them at the door. I believe I hit the mark, as the mayor said. "You may go. Thank you, Mr. Mayor." I returned home. "Well," my wife said, "what did they want?" "Well, another unfounded denunciation. We must not let anyone into our room any more. I believe I have figured out that it is the Paris police pursuing me." Mr. Leblanc dismissed me without any comments. It is his secret, not mine. He received me well. My wife said, "My dear, you should find a garden to unwind. I would like that." I began the search. I mentioned it to Mr. Murray, who said, "I will find that for you. There is no shortage." He came to find me. "I have your place near mine on the promenade. Go see Mr. Chopard, a cooper and clogmaker. He wants to sell his garden." I went to see Chopard. "You want to sell your garden?" "Yes, sir." "Would you show it to me?" "Certainly, sir. Let us go. If I like it and the price is right, I will buy it." After the visit, I said, "How much do you want?" 100 to 200 francs. "If you come to my place and bring my wife to see it, if she likes it, we can make a deal." My wife went and said, "It suits us. You can buy it." I went to these poor people and closed the deal for 100 to 200 francs. Ah, how happy I was to have a garden. It was a wilderness, but within a year it was transformed. I spent 600 francs on it. I worked tirelessly with the hoe and the spade. I turned it into my refuge. In my garden I was safe from spies. It became my delight and my wife's. I owe my good health to it. I abandoned everyone. I must say that I saw persecutors everywhere. For 30 years I have tended my retreat and have not gone 2 days without visiting it, in all weathers, always accompanied by my wife. How I enjoyed my find every day. I planted trees, pruned them. I left the main path a bit narrow, but could not change it because of its beautiful trees. I made a lovely flower bed and 3 arbours. I planted willows that are 25 feet high. It is rare to see such specimens. When everything was completed, visitors came to see me. They came to see the old grognard, always in work clothes and with a hoe in hand, happy to have a piece of land. I was fortunate to become the father of a boy who was my entire hope, but I lost him at the age of 14. This shattered all my joys. In 1818 I had a good harvest in my vineyards at Moufy. I sold wine for 1,000 francs, which covered a portion of my debts. How proud I was to bring 2,000 francs to Mr. Moore and Mr. Labour with my monthly receipts. But the spies were always after me. At the end of September 1822, at 10 in the morning, a well-dressed man presented himself at my door. Blue frock coat, matching trousers, fine black sideburns. A sabre cut ran from his ear to his mouth. He looked every bit a soldier. I could not help but invite him into my small room. "Please, have a seat. Will you have a glass of wine?" My wife said, "Would you like a broth?" "I would not refuse," he said. After refreshing himself, he showed me a list of all the officers still in town. Who gave you this list? I do not know him. Did you find anything? Oh, yes, he said. I told my wife, give him 3 francs, right away, my dear. I asked him where he came from. I come from Greece. He pulled out some papers from his pocket. He read the names of the main leaders in Greece. Why did you go there? May I ask you that question? My commander took me with him. And why did you come back? I saw my commander impaled. It scared me so much that I left immediately. What will you do now? I have protectors at the Ministry of War. I dismissed the man, who went straight to the town hall to denounce me. He told the mayor that I had made remarks to a conscript in Drapery Street. The conscript would have said, "Good morning, Captain. Where are you going? To Spain. Well, you will not come back, nor your comrades." It did not take long for me to be summoned before the mayor. At noon, the police officer informed me I was expected. I went without any special attire, wearing a cap. "What do you want, Mr. Mayor?" "Well," he said, "if you heard anything bad about me, would you tell me, my friend?" He held both my hands. "No, Mr. Mayor, I am not a snitch. And if you saw someone wanting to harm me, would you tell me?" "No, Mr. Mayor, I remember that at harvest time your vines were cut down. If I had seen it, I would not have told you. But if I had caught the individual in the act, I would have made him confess before you, and if he did not, I would have given him a correction before you. That is how I see denunciations. But that is not the issue. You have been denounced. I protest. I do not ask for grace or protection. I am innocent. I know the scoundrel. He has a sabre cut on his face. He told me he came from Greece. I gave him 3 francs, a broth, and 2 glasses of wine. Only he could have denounced me. If you allow it, I will go to the general. He knows. Already. The scoundrel left my place at 10. He moves fast. He gets around in 2 hours. Will you allow me to explain to the general? Go and come back to tell me what he says." "Very well." I went to Rue du Champ. I found the general in a large dressing gown in his living room, near a good fire. "General, I salute you." "Good morning, sir." "I am not a Sir General. I am Captain Coignet, who has been denounced again, but this time I know the scoundrel. It is a spy from Paris. He came to my house with a list of all the half-pay officers. I would like to know who dares give out all our names. It would be my life or his. For I gave him 3 francs, 2 glasses of wine, a broth, and for my charity he denounced me like a coward. You must have kept him, I think, to confront us before you. If you let him go, it is time for this to end. It has been 6 years that I am under your surveillance without deserving it. Today, General, I ask for my death or my freedom. You are the master to choose. I do not ask for grace. I swear on my honor that I am innocent, and my word should suffice. Here is my final word. I will come tomorrow at 3 o'clock to learn your decision. You have the power to arrest me. If you let me go, I will take my rifle, walk the streets, and if I find the scoundrel, I will shout to the citizens, "Make way so I can kill this mad dog." Calm down, Captain. General, if your spy does not tell the truth, have him given 100 lashes, and you will no longer be deceived. You may go. He walked me to the door. I had struck a nerve. The next day, at 2:45, I stood at my door, waiting to leave for the generals. Mr. Ribourt arrived. "Captain, I am here to tell you that all the denunciations have been burned before me. There were 42. You can speak, say anything you want. You will no longer be denounced." Joy returned to my home, but on May 8th, hail devastated my garden. I lost my small harvest. Those spared from this calamity made good wine in Auxerre. I made 18 casks in my small vineyards in Muffy, which saved me for 1822. My father, like me, was a victim of denunciations. He was pursued for seditious remarks, and a warrant issued for his arrest. A friend warned him, and he fled through his garden gate, escaping the gendarmes. For 8 days he wandered in the woods, then hid in a village. But he had lost his freedom and had to stay indoors. He decided to leave his refuge, moving from shelter to shelter, travelling only at night, and eventually surrendered to the prison in Auxerre to face whatever punishment the court would impose. He was sentenced to 3 months in prison. He was accused of saying that the emperor was coming with 10,000 Englishmen. Common sense protested such an accusation. Someone told me he was in prison. I went to see him immediately, embraced him. Why did you not tell me? I did not want to worry you. Who could have denounced you? Trubert. That scoundrel, I said. I made his fortune and married him to Miss de France. It is not possible. It is him, I tell you. I will bring you food every day. I want a bottle of brandy to share with my cellmates. I sing Mass and Vespers for them on Sundays. I do not get bored. You will lack nothing. Upon his release from prison, he left me a debt of 35 francs at Foussier's Tavern on Rue du Temple, across from Milon's Café. He ordered roasts, and it was I who paid for the masses and vespers he sang for the prisoners. In 1823-1824, I had an average harvest, but in 1825 I made excellent wine. I sold enough to settle my debts with Mr. Moore and Mr. Labour, and had 300 francs left, which I immediately reinvested in groceries without taking a penny more. Returning home, I said to my wife, I am the happiest of men. I owe nothing, and here is 300 francs worth of good groceries owed to no one. The king could not have been happier. My small business thrived. I completely withdrew from the world. In summer, I left with my wife at 3 in the morning, returned from the garden at 6 to open my small shop, then went back to work. I came back at 9 to have breakfast. This is how I lived for 30 years with my beloved wife. May the earth that covers her be light. She did good for the poor all her life. Every Monday she distributed a bowl full of coins and knitted socks for the blind. She had set aside 12 francs a month, and I used to tell her, that is quite a burden, my dear. It will bring us luck. I have always continued, but I have lost 2 who have lightened my load by 6 francs. I still pay 6 francs a month. Every fortnight, my wife hosted the poor at her table since we left the business. I have stopped all that since I am alone. I only continue to personally deliver the donations my wife was used to giving to her poor. All her wishes are sacred to me. She asked me in a note kept in my desk, without date or signature, to give 100 francs to her brother Baillet in Paris. This is paid every 3 months from my pension, as well as 72 francs for her poor, which amounts to 172 francs annually. I was carried away by this painful memory, which may not be in its proper place. Now I return to my subject. The years 1826 to 1829 passed without incident for me. My 30 years of service were completed, and I had long been waiting for it. I had 15 years, 11 months and 9 days as a captain. My services totalled 30 years, worth 200 francs. For 12 campaigns, 240 francs. For 6 months, 10 francs. Total, 1,450 francs. I received my pension on August 23rd, 1829, the date of my 30 years of service. A friend went to Paris and worked on my behalf with his cousin, Mr. Martineau Deschenais, in charge of personnel at the Ministry of War. I received this handsome pension at Rue des Belles Filles. There were people around when I received the pension certificate amounting to 1,450 francs, instead of the 930 francs I was expecting. I exclaimed with joy, all the better. My poor will benefit from it. I kept my word, doubling my donations. There was a widow of a soldier in my neighbourhood with 2 boys and a girl. I put the 2 boys in school, which cost me 80 francs a year. I gave them all my old clothes. I can mention one, named Choudet. He made such progress that he entered the small seminary in Auxerre. Now he is a parish priest in the countryside. I have not seen him again, but doing good is enough for me. The year 1830 brought great unrest in France. Everyone was agitated against the old monarchies, wanting to expel them for the last time. Paris rose up. It is always Paris that sparks revolutions. Paris would change governments as often as we change shirts. Besides, Auxerre was also in turmoil. It was all fire. Fortunately, it did not go beyond the city gates, They were content with small gatherings at the Temple Gate, the Town Hall, the Prefecture, on the Paris road to intercept dispatches. They were careful not to go beyond Saint-Simeon Hill, but they escorted the mail coach. Ah, the good defenders of the fatherland! I watched them from a distance and followed all their movements. Robert was thrilled to have a packet of proclamations from Paris. He stood on benches and posts to address the public. God! How happy he was! As for the authorities of Auxerre, the youngsters had expelled them, taken over the town hall, and hoisted the tricolour flag. They quickly restored order, forming the National Guard immediately, with elections held as quickly as possible. I was very surprised to find myself appointed flag-bearer without my permission. The law was on my side. I was free to join the National Guard or not. They brought me the flag-bearer's certificate. But who allowed you to appoint me without my consent? Everyone supported you. You were unanimously chosen. You cannot refuse. So you are the masters? Who is your battalion commander? It is Mr. Turquet. You made a good choice. I will give you my answer tomorrow. If I accept your flag, I will be at the town hall at noon. I consulted my wife. You should not refuse, she said. But it is an enormous expense and a heavy burden for me. Do not refuse, I beg you. They will think you hold a grudge against them. They have made me suffer with their denunciations. They deserve to be sent away. No, she said, do not think about that any more, but it will inconvenience us. I need 200 francs. Do not hesitate, I beg you. At noon, I gave them my answer. Here is our flag-bearer, they shouted. You know nothing, gentlemen. I am my own master, not you. You have no right over me. The law is clear. If you think you are pleasing me by giving me such a heavy burden, you are mistaken, but I will carry it. We will give you an aid, and this expense I must incur. You are wealthy, but I am not. Come, my friend, you are one of us. I promise to get ready immediately, but I do not see your mayor. He must return to his post. The youngsters have chased him away. It is not up to us to administer justice. If he is not suitable, he will be replaced. We must immediately appoint an officer to guard the prefect and protect him. The youngsters are threatening him with bayonets to hand over the dispatches. All my advice was followed. Authority was restored, and the mayor returned to his post. The National Guard was called to assemble at the arquebuse, numbering 1,500 to 1,800 men, all in smocks. The tailors were not happy. I was ordered to report there to be received, as it was urgent. The cannon was roaring in Paris. They were hunting down the Swiss. In Auxerre, they had improvised a flag for the first proclamations. Every day I was paraded through all the streets with my heavy burden. When I returned, I was drenched in sweat. But it was worse later. The town had a flag made that cost 600 francs. It was magnificent. The drapery was as wide as the mainsail of a 74-gun ship. It blocked my view. I folded under it. When I returned, all my clothes were soaked. How amusing for an old captain who had enough with his sword. They made me march for 2 hours through the entire town. Then, upon reaching the town hall, I had to carry it to Commander Turquet's on the port. If they had kept it, I would have thanked them. I did more than I could. I handed it to Mr. Mathieu one day to take it down. He could not carry it the whole way. Fortunately, the Queen had embroidered one, they said, for the National Guard of Auxerre. It was brought by the Duke of Orléans. The entire National Guard from the countryside arrived for this great ceremony. The Prince stayed at the Leopard, and an honour guard was needed. The firefighters, the hunters, the grenadiers, and the flag. It was mandatory. We had to spend the night with our feet in the water and have the stable as our guardhouse. No one cared about us. We spent the night shivering, lying on the manure. Such foresight from the authorities of Auxerre for the citizens. If a battalion of regular troops had been in our place, the commanders would not have left them in such a state. The next day, we had to carry the flag to the town hall. I took advantage of the occasion to stop by my house, have breakfast as quickly as possible, and rejoin my post. I had plenty of time to reflect. All the National Guards from the countryside had to be placed in the great alley of the spur on the right. When all were in place, they went to inform the Duke of Orleans. I was at my post to receive the flag. The prince arrived on horseback, carrying it himself. He stopped in front of me. I said to him, "Prince, you are handing this flag to the soldier who was decorated first, on June 14th, 1804, at the Invalides Dome, by the first consul." The prince replied, "All the better, my friend. That is another reason for it to be well defended." These words and mine were recorded in the newspaper. I carried that flag for 3 years, and I can say that I suffered. All the corporals and sergeants stepped on my feet, being drunk 3/4 of the time. Fortunately, I was given an aide named Charbonnier, a decorated former gendarme. Without him, I would not have been able to serve my term. The Duke of Orleans, back at his hotel, inquired about me, and the next day we escorted him with the flag. Upon returning to Paris, he reported his mission and spoke about me. The king wanted to clarify the matter, requested my service records from the Ministry of War, and found that I had participated in all the campaigns. He sent for confirmation at the Chancellery to ensure I had indeed been decorated first, as I had told his son. Everything was confirmed. He saw that I had been appointed officer of the Legion of Honour on July 5th, 1815, by the Provisional Government. I did not know that I had interested the Duke of Orleans in my favour. I only learned of it in January 1847. The old legionnaires throughout France petitioned the Chamber of Deputies to claim our 7-year arrears, withheld by the Bourbons. Auxerre did not fail to send its petition to Mr. Larrabit, who thundered at the podium on our behalf, but to no avail. They did not deny our debt, but it was always postponed. He did not give up. He resumed every year. One day I saw him and said, "You are working hard for us. If you could only obtain the interest on our 7 years?" The interest on 875 francs would be only 43 francs 75 cents added to our pension each year, and the old legionnaires would be satisfied. "Thank you," he said. "I will not forget your advice." With repeated petitions, it eventually prevailed. Starting January 1st, 1846, and in 1847, 350 francs were due instead of 250, which delighted the 10,000 oldest legionnaires. On January 1st, 1847, they all received their 350 francs, but I received nothing. I waited until January 5th, then until the 16th. I complained. They ignored me, which means the oubliettes. They did not reply. But my God, they do not want to pay my cross any more. Finally, on January 18th, I received a letter from the Legion. I thought, I was right to write to them, "Here come my 350 francs." Not at all. I found only 250 francs. But that is not my due. I am entitled to 350. They are mocking me. They filed my complaint with the Chancellery, but like others, they ignored it. Finally, on January 31st, I received a response, but what a surprise to see on the address. To Mr. Captain Coignet, officer of the Legion of Honour. I thought, they are mocking me. They are sweetening the pill to avoid giving me my 100 francs. I opened the letter, which read, "Sir, the 100 francs you claim are not owed to you." I was ready to take off my cap to thank them. You were appointed on July 5th, 1815, by the Provisional Government, then on November 28th, 1831, by the King, as an officer of the Legion of Honour. Therefore you are entitled to 250 francs annually. Signed, the Secretary-General of the Legion of Honour, Viscount de Saint-Mars. So, I was appointed for the 3rd time, but who could have nominated me by the Provisional Government? Racking my brain for old memories, I recalled the plains of Vertus on June 30th, and the handsome superior officer who took my name and first names. Maybe it was him. He did tell me his name when he saw me cut off that Prussian officer's nose. Ah, I remember. His name is Bory de Saint-Vincent. How fortunate for me to be able to mention such a man. I received my certificate and letters from all those who cared about me. Count Montion, Mr. Larrabit, my sister-in-law Baillet, superior of the branch of the Orphans of the Legion of Honour, Rue Barbette. On August 16th, 1848, my birthday, I was struck by the greatest misfortune. I lost my beloved companion after 30 years of blessed days. I remained alone, overwhelmed with sorrow. What will become of me at 72? I cannot undertake anything. My small activities could not relieve my deep troubles. I had long been contemplating all my old memories which were far behind me. If only I could write. I could undertake to write my grand campaigns and the most painful childhood an 8-year-old could endure. Well, I thought, God will help me. With this resolution, I bought paper and everything I needed. I set to work. The hardest part for me was having no notes or documents to guide me. How many sleepless nights and torments I endured to retrace the path I had taken during my military career. It is impossible to imagine my struggle to remember and recount all the events. If I have succeeded, I will feel well rewarded, but it is time to conclude. My memory is very weak. This is not the history of others that I have written, but mine, with all the sincerity of a soldier who did his duty and writes without passion. This is my motto. Honour is my guide. Now, if I may, I wish to speak to the fathers who will read this. Make every effort to teach your children to read and write, and guide them to do good. It is the best inheritance and easy to bear. If my parents had given me this precious gift, I could have become a prominent soldier, but one should not blame one's parents. At 33, I did not know my letters. If I had, my career could have been different. I had courage and intelligence. Never punished, always present at roll call, tireless in all marches and counter-marches, I could have travelled the world without complaint. To make a good soldier, one needs courage in adversity, obedience to all superiors, regardless of rank. What also makes a good soldier is a good officer. I conclude my memoirs on July 1st, 1850. That concludes the 17th and last part of this story. Thank you very much for listening. Please consider subscribing for more epic stories.